warm welcome to everyone who's joined us on the line today for this CRF webinar with myself, Paul O'Donohoe, and my colleague Paul Margerison here in a rather uncertainly grey November evening in London. And today we want to talk to you about a topic that's quite dear to both of our hearts, specifically that of placing electronic data capture in the position of the default mode people think of when it comes to clinical trials. And not just electronic data capture as it exists now, but in a form that completely breaks free from the current so-called gold standard methodology created when paper was our only option. So despite my obvious bias, I think it's probably relatively uncontroversial to suggest that electronic data capture is now really quite well accepted within clinical trials, both by kind of the industry as a whole, but equally important by the regulators. And I think this has largely been driven by the undeniable fact that you simply get better data with the electronic systems, whether that's less missing data, no out of range data, significantly higher compliance, all those good things. And despite the perceived upfront cost of electronic systems, and this is a topic I'll touch on again in a moment, I think many recognize that that's a worthwhile price to pay for a high quality data set, with all the benefits for analysis and the ultimate demonstration of the effectiveness of a new treatment that this brings. This move towards electronic has also been driven from the patient side, which I think it's important to remember, where there's a real desire for a low-burden solution that fits seamlessly into their lives. And I think this is something we can lose sight of in the worries over various regulations, which are obviously important, or this frame of mind we sometimes get into around trying to keep questionnaires looking like the original paper version. Consistently, we within the vendor side, but also from our clients, hear that patients of all ages are expressing a preference towards an electronic, using the electronic device for providing data, rather than reams of paper. However, I think it's important to say we're not really here to talk about the benefits of paper versus electronic administration, because this is a topic that's really been done to death already. Rather, what we want to do is to challenge a far more insidious effect of paper, an effect which places unnecessary and invisible boundaries on the way we go about capturing data from patients. Practically every year for the last 30 years has been the year technology was going to revolutionize healthcare, and 2015 really is shaping up to be no different, with this huge interest we have in wearables and bring your own device methodology. But I think we can all admit the revolution is yet to be televised, never mind streamed directly to your smartphone. And of course this is largely because really the future is mundane. By the time it arrives, we are already bored of it and have set ourselves on the next shiny, the next revolution around the corner. And the revolution, particularly for healthcare and technology, has kind of already come and gone and will continue to come and gone as technology develops. Yet we in the clinical trial spaces still seem to be striving to take full advantage of the technology we literally have to hand. The argument that myself and Paul will make is that the historical shadow of paper is playing a large role in stifling the potential we have available to us right now, and which will only continue to grow in the coming years. You might say it's kind of arrogant for us to dismiss paper so lightly. As one of the most influential technologies ever invented, I think up there along with the flushing toilet, it surely has a lot still going for it, something which we really can't deny. People highlight the familiarity with paper as being a benefit for patients who are already burdened by their disease and the unquestionable rigors of being part of a clinical trial. But I think as people were familiar with cassette tapes, LPs, wax cylinders, and I'll let you age yourself with the appropriate reference, I think time proves the simplest cure for this issue as Moore's law continues to ensure computers become both more readily available and more dispersed into ever-increasing mundane and minute aspects of our life. Free text entry is also something cited that as something that handheld electronic data capture systems struggle with a bit, and this is a point I would concede. Paper often does prove more adept at dealing with allowing patients to jot down a quick note. However, the actual utility of such data has to be questioned, and again related to the first point, as technology becomes more widespread, we see generations defaulting to free data entry using their handheld or tablet-based electronic devices. The perceived expense of eCOA, as I already mentioned, eCOA compared to paper, is probably the most serious challenge raised, and it's consistently raised. But not only do I believe that this is something that is widely miscalculated due to the hidden costs associated with paper, As I said previously, I think this argument ignores the price one is willing to pay for good data. That said, it's an argument I've often heard before that paper can be printed at no cost in inverted commas, because this is obviously not the case, but it's perceived as such, thus making questionnaires readily available wherever you have a computer and a printer, whether that be at sites or at a patient's home. But I would in fact argue that this very strength is in fact a horrible weakness, meaning you lose complete control of when and how questionnaires are being produced for your study. But as I said, this isn't really a presentation about the pros and cons of the various media. What we really want to do is open some new vistas for you to consider when you're developing future trials and questionnaires. And this is really the question we asked ourselves when we sat down to initially develop this presentation. How would we build questionnaires now if we never had paper? If we were starting from scratch with the technology we had available today? Now, there's a rather obvious caveat that I should say at this stage, which is we're very much acting in the devil advocate's role here. We don't propose that any or all of what we're going to present here can be implemented tomorrow in your pivotal phase 3 study, but rather we're just trying to get you, the key decision makers and thinkers in this field, to perhaps have a moment of quiet reflection to see if you're caught in what I'd like to term this paper frame of mind. Are you really thinking about what we could actually achieve with the computers that permeate our lives? Because it's only really when we begin to envision these possibilities that we can even start to change this system to accommodate them. And so, without further ado, I will hand you over to my colleague Paul to get us started.